Hi everyone, this is Bruno from House of Falcone. I am today with Barbara. Now, I am very excited to have you here because it is almost like a blind date. We met fast.
That's very true. It is.
We
Yeah.
met fast.
Fast.
And
getting-
you are like, we met at an event where you stood up and you talked and you spoke in front of like a couple of hundred people, and it was great to see you in action. So I am all ears, very, very curious, but at the same time, I also want you to just tell everyone like a little bit about what you do, because I know that you have a lot of things going on, but like give me a little synopsis.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I'm Barbara Taylor. I was actually born in Sierra Leone. So, fun fact about me, I don't have a birth certificate because I was born in an ice bath in the middle of a coup. So,
What?
I have a very, very interesting start to life, that's for sure. And I moved here when I was about just before I was 2. My mum's Australian, Irish background though. And I think growing up in Australia, especially being a person of colour, surrounded by a lot of white people, made a big impact on me. So I always used creativity to kind of express myself because I didn't know how to do that. I didn't have a community. I was so far away from Africa, obviously. So trying to find myself through that, which is why I've resonated with you so much, because I think fashion is a way to really find your identity and showcase who you are.
Yeah.
So
Also, like we're talking about like a few years ago when Australia wasn't the way it is today,
it
right?
was
Like
not.
we're talking about, when it was a little bit. I feel like the culture here was a
A
little bit
little
more
bit.
resistant.
So much resistance. So,
Yeah.
well, and even in the fashion industry, right? Like my proportions are completely different to the, you know, general Australian woman. So it was extremely challenging.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I've splintered into the different kind of industries that I have. One being youth work, where I inspire the next generation, teach more entrepreneurial pathways to employment and success. And then I've got my Bahari Stays, which is I want people to be able to go to a place to be able to find themselves, right? And explore that avenue of who they are and what it is that they need, and just sometimes just take a minute to themselves to kind of help develop that. And then I've got my film production company because I think the power of storytelling and representation is like super important, because I didn't have that growing up. So people are like, "What? There's 3 different industries," but for me, it's all connected to my why, right? So
I
it's
like
just a
it.
different way to explore that.
I
Yeah.
like it. Film production, helping the youth,
Yeah.
and helping like people finding themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the 3, and you just touched on your values.
Yeah.
So, what do you stand for?
I stand for equality within ourselves and within our community. And for me, it isn't about, everyone having equal pay because everyone's, a different height. It's about leveling up the people that don't have what they need and getting everyone on a level where they can have the same resources and sharing the information. I think it's mostly about information knowledge, because you can give people all of the tools in life, but what they do with that is up to them, really. So I'm just about, okay, here you are, here's a plethora of information and the pathways, now it's up to you, kind of thing. And I think at least if we can give people that, that's something, what people do with that is up to them.
So, like you touched about, like very briefly about your life when you came to Australia and everything.
Yeah.
Was there an event or like a series of events that put you on this value, your personal value path? Was there something that happened, like, growing up
Yeah,
there?
definitely. My father is the African side of my family, and he was an extremely violent man. Like, he was literally the stereotype of what a lot of racist communities would say. So it was very hard for me to detach the love I had for this seemingly big monster that everyone in society didn't like, but then also understand why he was that way, which is why I've like lent into helping the youth, because a lot of the youth that I work with, and people, they see what I look like and they don't think that I work with children that have weapons every day and like come after me with a taser and stuff, because I understand that there's something so much deeper that's going on inside of them, that it's You know, when someone's got a cold and they sneeze, you don't go, oh, you know, you don't yell at them for it. You understand it's a symptom, just like anger is. So I think it's really driven me to understand what's at people's core and provide an opportunity for people to express that, really. Yeah.
So why would people get angry then?
A lot of the time it's trauma. The biggest thing that I found with anger is it's hurting people or pushing people away before they can get close enough to hurt them again. It's literally like a safety mechanism. Yeah.
Well, you know, like it's one of those things. Like I actually very recently I had a conversation with a psychologist based in Singapore, and she's like, you know, she works with trauma, and one of the things that we were talking about is actually the fact on how, you know, we all like really running around and
Yep.
faking being adults, right? Like working as an
I
adult.
completely, but I'm never going to grow up. And anyone that knows me knows that I am living my child's best life. Like I am a kid, you know.
So did you work yourself? Did you have to work yourself on your own traumas before?
Oh, definitely.
Working on this line of.
Yeah, definitely. I was very angry as well. Like, you know, it's nature over nurture. So I learnt these behaviours, and for a very long time I was a very angry young woman, angry at society, angry at the way that I looked, that I was different, angry that, you know, I wasn't represented, and it wasn't doing me any favours. So I learned to channel that anger to drive me to doing something about it, because, you know, I was sitting there essentially being a victim, right? Wasn't being proactive about anything that I was doing.
Yeah.
So I used that, and I realized that our society is so afraid of anger and so afraid of it that we make it something that's quite negative, when it's actually, when used correctly, it's actually a really beautiful and powerful thing, you know? So instead of teaching people how not to be angry, it's like using people how to channel that to create some more force in the right direction.
So yeah, so I think now you're getting into that part, right? So like you told me that you help youth with creativity. So these are trouble youth,
Yeah.
the trouble kids,
I would say,
or
definitely disadvantaged. So
disadvantaged.
yes, a lot of the young people that I work with haven't had the best start in life because there's like a cycle, right? So their parents didn't get the nature and nurture, so they couldn't model the behaviours for their children, and it's just this constant cycle that I'm trying to step in and break and saying, you know, you don't actually have to be like this. Yeah.
How did you get out of the cycle? Do you feel like you got out of the cycle?
I definitely feel like I got out of the cycle.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that I was actually talking to my cousin, who's an incredible developer, and we come from a big family. And we were like, how did we sidestep it? And we were sitting there and we were unpacking it. And it was the fact that we are not afraid of failing. We're not afraid of like any challenge, anything that comes to us. We're like, nope, we're going to overcome it. We're going to keep going. And you know what? That the start of our life wasn't great. It wasn't amazing and profound, and we weren't provided all the opportunities. But honestly, like without that, it would not have built the grit and resistance it takes to be successful either. So it's about stepping in and going, I get it, but if you keep living as a victim, you're never going to, you know, get the life that you deserve, really.
So if you had like to map it out, like you just said, to somebody, stepping out of the cycle, it takes courage. So in terms of like that you weren't afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And it takes that grit, like that wanting to go through it, even if you have adversity.
Yeah. And that's one thing that these people don't understand. The things that they've witnessed or been subjected to has set them up to be able to overcome everything else in their life. But they just have to detach from that victim mentality.
And see it as a positive.
It's a positive. Yep.
See the past as a positive.
Yeah, and it's changing that mindset, right? And saying, oh,
why did it happen to me?
Why?
Versus, it is because that this has happened to me that now I am the person that I am.
And the proof's in the receipts, right? They've been able to overcome this, and they're still surviving, they're still thriving. But instead of seeing that as a wonderful tool that they have and that's naturally a part of who they are, they get stuck. But when you realize, you're like, wow, if I can go through all of that and I'm still here and I've still got like a drive and passion, like there's nothing, I'm unstoppable. Like,
So why creativity? Like, what was that? That was one of the avenues that you chose.
creativity. I think, firstly, it has to do with that inner child, right? When we're dealing with trauma, in the first 7 years, all of that fundamental work that should have been done or wasn't done, or what you were privy to, that's kind of ruptured a lot of what you think is, the right way forward. In that first 7 years, most of these people didn't get to be expressive. They didn't get to have a voice. Whereas like creativity is a really, really soft way to explore who you are, explore your trauma without being supremely triggering. Like, it gives you a voice, and you can paint it out, you can write it out, you can sing it out, you can dance it out, so it gives you an outlet, but in a really, really healthy way. Yeah.
Well, do you think that I do what I do because I'm trying to work out my traumas?
Or you want me to psychoanalyze you? I think that anyone that gets in the business of making or wanting to help and advise people to be their personal best, there definitely has been a point in their life where they didn't feel so. And they never, ever want anyone to. They want to provide a service and an opportunity for people to go, you are your personal best, and I can help you do that. So I think that maybe there was a time in your life where you didn't feel as vibrant as you are now. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Well, a fortunate life, but in the fortunate life, I still had the things that happen behind doors, right? Like, so from everyone else's perspective, is like, it's a pretty life in Italy, and and even like growing up, I was on a good path, good student,
Yeah.
and then, but behind doors, like, my mom was struggling with depression for ever. Like, I would say, I don't think I ever remember her not struggling with it. So like, now it's been 30 years plus, right? And I think when I was very little, when I was like, 10, 11, 12, I didn't understand it. I was like, oh, why are you lying in bed all day? Why? Like, but because that was my reality, like, I didn't think it was something different than anybody else's mom would do, right? And then depression is it's a very interesting mental issue because it is so misunderstood. Myself, I have to be honest, I still, like, for all of the kind of like research and talks and everything that I've done with everyone around me, I still don't understand it, but because I'm so angry at it. Like, I feel like I have like this like raw emotion about it. Like, I'm angry at the fact that, I had to go through it, but she has to go through it, and she can't get out of it, right? Out of that cycle. And then I add into that, like, the Italian traditional mindset is like, it's about, always like putting like a face for the world to see. So it feels like it was never dealt with it. Like, there wasn't never like a conversation about, this is what's happening, this is how you deal with it, and this is what we're trying to do about it, like, so there was like also like substance addiction, because it was like the 90s. So, there was all of those like pills that came out in the 90s. And yeah, so I think like I wasn't, growing up, I feel like I was always like to the world. I was like very healthy. I was a champion. I was like, playing basketball, like and even at school, like, like I wasn't the cool kid, but like I was still like within a cool group.
Yeah.
No, I was like, like I wasn't the, like, but I was definitely like surrounded by friends, and like I had a tough, probably like earlier in life when I was like 12, 13. I felt like a little bit of like I'd gone through that bullying kind of road that I feel like most of us do. I don't know if there's some kids that are not bullying ever. So like I had that path earlier, but then like in the later years in high school it was all right. And then university,
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that because obviously mental health, the stigma has lessened over the last few years,
For sure.
which is why I resonate with it so much because black people weren't always popular, so I can completely resonate with like this whole having to save face. And I think it's really important for people to understand that, in your primary years, it only takes one secure attachment to really formulate a healthy minded child and young adult, right?
Okay.
So to have someone that's a primary caregiver, especially your nurturer, the mum, who doesn't have the capacity to give, and you essentially become the caregiver, I don't blame you for having that anger, because it was almost like you were robbed of that experience. But I also think that sometimes we need to change the narrative about depression. It is, for me, it is having attachment to the past and not being able to let go, but it's like anger, right? Like it's someone's ability to feel so deeply, like so deeply on a level that I've never had depression, right? So I can't relate to it. But when I do talk to people and they do unpack about their depression, it is this deep sorrow, and it's something that I don't think I'll ever be able to understand because I don't have the capacity to feel that deeply, or it hasn't happened to me yet because of situational, reasons or whatever. But I think as well, like in saying that your mum has depression, you potentially have had a mother who feels more deeply about you as a child than I even am humanly possible for my children, you know what I mean? Because I don't have that capacity in that depth. So
Yeah.
I think it's like, we've got some of the world's most beautiful poets that have depression.
And have that feeling.
Yeah.
I think, that's probably why they say that, if you have something like that in your family, you're a little bit more inclined to have that depth. Because I feel I play with it, and I play with it myself. Like, I feel like, I can get
like hereditary,
all the way to that deep sense, like the feeling of it, like, and really like, and if it's love and it's like full cup, and if it's anger, it's like could be too much. And I learned to like self-regulate, like doing
That's exactly
my
right.
adult lives. But what I was about to say is, and this could be like a hot take on it, but I feel like you can try to control what's in your power to control. So, for example, as a little kid, I wasn't like super confident. So, and then I learned that and I learned it from the movies. Like, I didn't learn, nobody told me anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I always mention it. It's like Bad Boys, like the Will Smith with the suit with the pink lining, and like I learned that you can control the way that people perceive you.
Yeah.
So like I learned that you can, and it's a learned skill. So like you don't have to be born with it. I learned that you can control the way you get perceived.
Yeah.
Then, this is like in case of like even now there's so much education about it, social anxiety. So people that struggle with social anxiety, all of a sudden, if they can understand that you can control part of that equation, because within the social anxiety, there's you and the rest of the world. But if you're going into a room and you feel like you don't have control over yourself, then it's even worse. There's some parts that you can control, you should put all of your efforts into controlling them. Right? So there's another thing. So, like presenting yourself is number one. So let's say for me, in terms of like walking into a room where nobody knows me, right? Like I'm not talking about friends. I'm talking about, you're walking into a room where nobody knows you, whether you're a teenager, take care of yourself. Like your hair,
you've only got one
your hair, like your perfume is a hygiene, like take care of yourself. Number one. But then when you're a little bit more of an adult, like you're going into like either university, and so like, again, like there's always a way to introduce yourself as somebody that takes care of themselves. So that taking care of themselves, like for me, it just reflects that the different age groups in different ways.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm in my 40s, like I now feel like I can control the way I present myself when I walk into a room. And that gives me just like a little edge.
Yeah.
Right? So that's number one, like the way you control yourself. Number two is storytelling. So like you were talking to me about the power of storytelling. I can't wait to hear your take on it. But storytelling is that second thing where people will ask you about yourself, or people would want to know why you, right? And why you, it's in everything.
Yeah.
Why you in a relationship? Why should I go out with you?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
why you in a business sense?
Yeah.
Why should I give you money?
Yeah.
Like why you? It's a big thing. Why you? And then all you need to do is elaborate, be able to be eloquent about why you.
Yeah.
So tell stories about yourself.
Yeah.
And you can go you can have your go-tos, you can have a few ready to go, especially when dealing again with social anxiety. You walk into a room, people don't know you.
No, that's exactly
Just
right.
have a little war chest that you can open whenever you want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So again, number one, presenting yourself. Number two, be able to relate to people and tell stories. Number three, for me, this is part of my value.
Yeah.
It is authenticity.
Yeah.
So the way I'm with you is the way I'm with my kids, is the way that I'm with some stranger on the street, the way that I am with the person that makes me coffee. This is how I am.
Yeah.
And be able and just embrace it. So I feel like those are my three, I would say my three covenants. What's your take on it? What do you think about that?
I think it's really important because for me, I think you touched on it earlier, just saying we can only control what we can control, right? So that should become our superpower, and we should really sharpen those tools. But I think it's exactly the same for me. I realized very early on that I could help or guide people to perceive me the way that I actually wanted to be seen.
Wow.
Whereas, my father didn't have the same opportunity because he did not control himself. He could not control himself. So very early on, I realized that it was a really, really powerful tool to master. On top of that, authenticity as well. There's only one you, right? That's it. The chances of anyone even being remotely close to who you are, in
impossible.
the history of humanity,
Impossible.
it's impossible, right? So, but not just that. I think we've also got one life, so express yourself. Fashion, makeup, even what you do for work is an extension of who you are. And if it's not, that's when it's not successful, because you're trying to turn the cogs around in something that you don't really care about. Whereas if it flows from you effortlessly, then of course people will want to be a part of it. For instance, when people ask me why I work with these children, they see the passion. They understand, they can connect the dots to my past, to what it is that I do now. Fashion as well, it's the same. I think that it's so important, and I needed to be quite early on a role model for other young black women, right? So I didn't want to be wearing the tracksuit pants and a hoodie and just be this gang cultural or any of these stereotypes that were being made for me. I was no, I can drive a nice car, I can make lots of money, and I see that in the young people that I work with now.
Do you think the reason of your success is correlated to the fact that you are true to yourself and you're actually doing what you really want to do?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I've tried other things. And they have not failed. They've failed, sorry. I tried to get into hospitality and it just wasn't there. It wasn't there. I could make the money because I understood the formula, but my why was in the wrong place, right? So I started, and this is before U-Foods, where there were those pre-made meals. So I was making literally about 500 meals a day.
Wow.
For Men on the Mines, and it was such a profitable business. But then one day I was in the kitchen, I was like, what am I doing? This is not what I want to do with a hairnet on. I was I'm too pretty for this. I need to be out there. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know that I can, no matter what I do, I'm always going to put all of the work in, because that's just who I am, right? I put 1,000% into everything that I do. I go hard and I go fast and I get the results. But I wanted to do stuff that not only made money, I wanted to be like aligned with it, right? And
Yeah.
with my values. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's easy to be successful when you give a shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like people can feel that. Like you said, authenticity. Like especially when you're dealing with a large amount of money, you need to be trustworthy. You need to be authentic. People, people need this kind of stuff from you, especially if it's investors or, a client they want to know that what you're saying, you're being authentic and true. They
Yeah.
don't want to walk away with a suit going, oh my God, I can't believe you just made me sold that. Like that, you're not going to have a repeat customer, right? You need to, yeah. But I think as well, like fashion,
Yeah.
in general, or being able to present yourself or putting your best foot forward every day. Like it does not matter where I go. I can go into a trap house with kids that are using drugs and I will have a full hair, makeup, like glamorous, because this is just who I am, right? Like at my core, I always want to put my best foot forward. So I think it's really important. And I say this to the young people that I work with. If you dress well, then you feel better. And if you feel better, then you make better choices, just in general. Like it's a general thing. Like if you go to the shops and you wear your pajamas, you're not going to feel as confident and vibrant. You're not energetically going to attract the right people. You might even fall prey or victim to someone, because they're like, oh, this person's, a little bit, I'm going to take their handbag or whatever. But if you were wearing like a suit, no one's going to mess with you. You know what I mean? If anything, they're going to ask you, where did you get that? You're going to have a more meaningful engagement with them, right? If they do approach you, so.
I feel like, this is like, it's funny that you mentioned that because when I first moved to Australia, I didn't speak English, so like I learned English here in Australia. And obviously, like the heavy accent, the broken English, I had the biggest chip on my shoulder for like years. Years. Because obviously, like you have to think, because I described it to you earlier in this interview. I said, in Italy, I was, part of, like I was on a good path. Chamber of Commerce, suits, I was an accountant, In Italy, accountants are kind of like looked at like same class as like lawyers and doctors. Those are the three paths, like accountant, lawyer, doctor. What do you want? What do you want to be?
Yeah,
right.
This is your three.
And I was like, I can't deal with blood, so no doctors. Like lawyers, it sounds like very hard. I'm like, no, I'll be an accountant.
I think you'd make a great lawyer.
So like I guess like that society level status they had. And then when I came to Australia, like I felt like I was a second-class citizen.
Yeah.
Literally. Like
I'm not gonna lie.
For years.
That this is what Australian society does to the minority though, right? Like it just goes, no, you're gonna have to start everything again, you're gonna have to start your training again, everything, and then you can work your way up. Like It was a bit tough. Like, I didn't have the best experience myself. Like, and when I speak to like other people that immigrants, like it's always like different stories. So like I don't put it as in the same, it's the same experience for everyone. I can only tell you about my experience. And I always had that feeling like there was like a little bit more of a second-class citizen. And, that gave me that chip on the shoulder. But that, it didn't make me angry about it, but like it really driven me to, I'm gonna show you. Yep.
So I went back to uni here in Australia. I did I did my like undergrad, and that when I graduated, like I felt a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then obviously like I was trying to work on my accent, but like then later on, like I just embraced it.
Yeah.
But the suits like part of it, we're just talking about it. It was more when I would go like, with a board shorts and a t-shirt in whatever shop, like, with the accent and everything.
Yeah.
People wouldn't treat me really well. Like it wouldn't. Like even a pharmacy, like whatever.
It was like a reverse Pretty Woman.
But they meant to like treat you normal and that wouldn't be treated nicely. And then I remember like, when I, because I had all of my suits from Italy, when I would put something like that on, and then walk into the street in the CBD, whatever, like going for a coffee. It's just like I had like a different effect on people.
Yeah.
So if I had to go, because I was, trying to get my citizenship worked out and everything. So if I was wearing a suit, going to the lawyer's office or whatever, all of a sudden the conversations were very different.
Yeah.
Or if I was going to, I think I took the test with the suit on as well, like the citizenship test. Just because like different experience. And until when, and sometimes with my clients, I always try to like talk to them about it because sometimes like the fix will be so fast. Like, you know, the moment that you present yourself in a different way and the moment that it just brings out like our confidence that
It's so
you don't know
powerful.
that's inside.
Yeah, it is. It's like the alter ego. Like, what have you got all
The
of
alter ego.
these famous like sports stars that say, you know, or even like Beyonce has Sasha Fierce.
Sasha Fierce.
It's this unstoppable.
What's your
like,
alter ego? Did you give it a name?
Oh, Madam Menace. Madam Menace.
All right, I'm talking to Madam Menace today.
But this alter ego of mine, there's nothing that it's yeses. She only gets yeses from everybody. She will move heaven and earth, super loyal, and just, dominates. Absolutely dominates, which is exciting. But now what I've realized is I'm always living in that alter ego, and then I've realized, that is because it is part of me.
True.
Like I'm not faking it, right?
It's not alter ego.
Yeah,
it's just a way for people to understand it, but it's not really an alter ego. And actually, I was gonna, because you just mentioned you talked about dominates, like you said, dominates. The reason, like I was watching like an interview with a coach, who's like you know somebody, or I can't remember who it was, but they said, this guy said it was like there's champions that train to win. It was about the Olympics. That there's champions that train to win, but the winners they aim to dominate.
Yeah, that's a good word. It is.
Which is it's a complete different mindset.
Yep.
Like training, imagine that, like training to win, it gets you there, but the champions, they train to dominate.
They're on a whole nother level.
It's just different. It's just a different.
It's a different way of thinking. It's like nothing is impossible.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to explain to people. Like my mindset, there is nothing, and that's why I love creativity, because there is nothing that I can't make.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing that I can't do.
Can be done.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and it's so, when we're walking around Earth like this, like it's not only like attractive in terms of like a business sense, but also it's great because you know that there's nothing that you can't do. You know, you're just like, I'll just need to wait 5 more days. You know, the right person will come in. Like there's no limit, right? And that's actually quite scary because, and it's a little bit lonely sometimes I find as well, because when you've got that mindset, it's hard to find people with the same mindset. And that's why, you know, I think when we went to the event, we were like, yes, when you find other people.
Where are you? Come on.
You know.
Come and talk to me.
And you're not intimidated by a person. You're like, because I was even like, let's bask in all of these people's like light, really, because it's like, finally, someone else as sparkly and shiny as I am, you know? Whereas you find a lot of people that haven't found their why or don't dominate or whatever it is, they're a bit like, they're sheepish or they're intimidated, because the amount of times that I get that I'm intimidating or I'm scary is crazy. And I am the sweetest person alive. Like, I actually have a nickname called, like, they call me Brown Bear, where people hug me and stuff. But when I'm in dominating mode, like, I can see why people are terrified. But you know what I mean?
I think what's important here to say, it is that we weren't born like this.
No.
So that's the most important thing, because we get lost in translation. We weren't born like this. There's tools out there. There's things that you need to work on.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible. It's a hard road. Like, it's not an easy road. I think my biggest challenge was when I started my business, it was going from like, I know everything to I know nothing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was like the biggest slap in the face. You know nothing about business. You know, like I was obviously the best at what I was doing, right? Like, you know, like the technical part. I was a very highly, and I am still like a high skilled technician, right? Like measuring, making the suits, giving the right advice, and like all of that. Like, and it's part of my culture. Like, it's things I believe in. So like I'm very passionate about it. But then, like, that's like the 20. Like, if you have a business, like, it's like 20%.
Yeah, it's like the tip of the iceberg. What about all?
And then everything else, I knew nothing about it, and it was like the biggest slap in the face. But I think that, again, the most important thing is like understanding that you can control your environment.
Yep.
You can control the way that you affect the environment. So like, I think first step is really like working on yourself. For like, that would be my little piece of advice. I would say, like, first thing, gotta work on yourself, and like for confidence, for example, like presenting yourself is a big thing. Like the way that you look and the way you are perceived in the room is a big thing. And then again, what I was saying to you about storytelling is like about having a few go-to arguments.
Yep.
That makes it easier to talk to other people. But then there's another thing that I like to do, which is like be genuinely curious about the next person, like the person in front of you. Like, it wasn't, even this conversation, like, it was about really like understanding how all of this happened. You know what I mean? Like, how did you bring that alter ego to life? So, I'm sure that people will be like dying to know, like, how could they collaborate with you? How would they work with you? Like, so I think, is the video production company
I think
like a way, or?
Yeah. So it's called Lady in Black Productions. And it's great because I do a lot of like social impact, or I can help brands kind of unpack their vision as well.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's really fun. And then bigger corporations, I help them find their why as well. So I'll go in and I'll measure through content the impact, or the positive impact they're making in the world, right? So I think it's really beautiful in that storytelling sense. To people always see these big brands and everything, but understanding the people behind, or the characters behind all of that, is really powerful too. So and I love doing that. I'm passionate about it, right?
Of course.
Everyone's got a story. Everything's got a story.
But also like the power of storytelling. Like what, like if you were to like just again map it out, like why is it so important to be able to tell the story about your brand?
Because you want to find the people that resonate with your story, right? And this is what I was saying earlier on, where it's giving people a voice. Sometimes there's people that aren't ready or don't know that they can until you're the one that tells them that they can. And if you're not stepping out there and creating your brand or putting your story out there and helping and sharing that, well, like, you're not going to help change the world, right? I think all of us, especially entrepreneurs, we want to make a difference. We want to make an impact in the world. So I think that there's only one you. Really, there's only one you. There's only one you that can do it the way that you're doing. So if they're not putting things out there, then how can we help people change and make the world a better place, really, to be honest,
I like that, by giving people a voice. How do you give an entrepreneur a voice? What are some of the factors that they're gonna be making a difference in having a voice?
I think asking yourself the 3 key things or words or adjectives that would describe you, right? And I think that also comes back to their values too. So, for instance, for me, it would be sophisticated, dominating, and charismatic, And if I had those 3 words, I could then implement them in everything I do. It's like when you do a mission statement and your values, right? If everything can map back to that, it stays, or it keeps your brand really strong and your focus really sharp as well. Because I think sometimes if you haven't fine-tuned that, or at least like a little statement, a mission statement, you can kind of splinter off everywhere, right? But if you can keep mapping things back, does that align with my... No, don't even worry about it, because there's so much opportunity. You've got to sometimes wait for everything. So 3 words that best describe you or your brand really helps to just move things from there.